everyone. For this, what I would have done Thursday, I thought it would be interesting to briefly address a film that I think a lot of people consider to be probably one of the worst. I would say on some lists it has been up there with films like Batman and Robin and um, the parody movies that have come out recently. Um, and sort of I guess you could say too, the recent Adam Sandler projects. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's almost on the level of a sci-fi production almost. It looks fairly similar to a sci-fi production. And what I mean by sci-fi production, I mean mainly an asylum project. But ultimately, I think that there could have been some things that could have been done to ultimately make this probably not one of the worst films to come out. And I think sort of these reasons that I'm going to explain, I think really do show how, even though you have maybe initially a really bad concept, you can still turn it into something positive if you try to focus on what you're doing wrong. So let me sort of explain what I think this film was doing wrong and what it could have done to improve itself. First off, the film is badly directed. The shots are tilted, so when scenes are going on, you'll see like the bodies of people just tilted at an angle. It's very odd and it's not really done for any significant reason. It's just kind of there. And again, that's why it makes it feel like it's an asylum project because it just doesn't seem directed properly. Also, the swipes to go from scene to scene are so goofy, especially when it's doing kind of like the current swipe thing. It always does the same transition, so that really makes the film look really off-putting to its audience. So yes, I think ultimately the direction of this film could have been handled a lot better had they had a little bit more variety with their transitions, and also had they not tilted the camera like it was being placed on an angle. So yes, I think that's definitely something that the film could have done. And it's really simple. I mean, all you needed to do is just change the shots and make the transitions a little bit more uh, interesting and more varied so that it didn't seem too repetitive. But yeah, that's I think something that ultimately uh, filmmakers can learn from, and I think you can sort of see the quality of the film by its directing. So yeah, directing was fairly poor in this project and could have definitely been improved upon um, by just doing simple things. And another thing about this film that I think really pulls it down under is the over the top villains. The villains in this film are basically aliens who come in and take over, the typical plot setup of aliens taking over humans. But the interesting thing about this one is that they use them, humans, as slaves instead of killing them off, because usually when aliens come in, they usually destroy the humans by just Xing them off, as opposed to using them as slave labor, which I think is actually a fairly interesting concept and could have worked. But the villains are really a major problem as to why this doesn't work. Um, First off, the designs of the villains are very strange because the aliens, they look fairly human, um, but then they have these very funky kinds of features, but it doesn't feel like it's something that's outworldly or that could come from another planet. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that they just look too human. Because again, you do have human actors performing, so it kind of just looks odd, and um, it kind of just feels just strange. Again, it doesn't really give off the same effect, and it's almost like they wanted to make them look human, but at the same time they thought, oh, we should slap some stuff on there to make it look a little bit like that they're aliens. So there's a lack of creativity, I think, when it comes to the design department of the aliens. Um, and again, this is where we kind of get the cheesy, over the top lines that John Travolta says in the movie. And yes, he's the main villain, and yes, he is an alien in this movie. Um, so that's something definitely I think that could have been changed. I think they should have looked a lot more out there and not as human. And the villains, not only are they over the top and somewhat one dimensional throughout, um, they don't really know a whole lot. They don't know the human. Well, they don't really know anything about humans, like what they eat, or they don't really. It didn't seem like that they studied their or studied the people that they're trying to conquer. So that I don't think really works out all too well. So, and usually when you make a film centered around aliens, usually you make them highly intelligent. You don't make them as smart or as dumb as the humans. So, yes, that's I think something that definitely was lacking there. There was a lack of knowledge on the aliens' part that needed to be there in order for this kind of setup to work, in order for us as an audience to believe, oh, okay, they could take over as rulers of the human planet. Um, Also, the main characters, in particular the human characters, are not all that developed well. They're not given much screen time. There's not a whole lot of focus on, having these kinds of breather moments with the characters. It just feels like rushing from one plot point to the next. And I think this, if you want a kind of project where you want ultimately the humans to win, you need to make the characters interesting and at least likable. Which is something that I think Independence Day did really well, even though some people might consider those characters stereotypes. At least some of them were fairly likable stereotypes, at least in my opinion. But that's I think something that could have definitely been improved upon. Uh, so yes, that's a very huge one, and the aliens don't necessarily seem to possess um, the significant amount of technologically tech or I mean they're tech savvy, but they're not as superior to the humans, especially when there's only a couple of humans that rebel, and then they're somehow able to destroy the planet. Like it just doesn't hold up. That whole technological explanation that the film tries to set up. So that's I think what why ultimately the script and the plot ends up suffering. If the aliens were given a little bit more of an interesting motivation, again, the motivation for them taking over humans or taking over the Earth is because they want to find gold. That's it. Just find gold out of greed, basically, because I guess aliens like gold in the same respect that humans like gold. um, and that's basically what they use the humans for, to go and dig gold. And I honestly think that this is a fairly weak motivation because, first off, I don't think aliens are. Usually, we don't associate aliens with being really I mean, yes, we can associate them with being greedy, but their motivations to being greedy make sense, and usually it's for resources. It's not necessarily to gain wealth, because, when you're an alien race and you have such advanced technology that seems to be easily accessible, I don't think you would necessarily need a lot of money. You would have pretty much everything that you would need. So to just be motivated by greed, to get gold, is, I think, something that just doesn't work. I think, had they focused on trying to find, had they, again, I think if the filmmakers had done some research and figured out a certain kind of mineral that the Earth possesses with an excessive amount, that maybe is lacking everywhere else, and it's something that the aliens could use for whatever motivation or means to an end, and if they used human labor to exploit that mineral or something like that, then I think that could be a reasonable way to approach it, because, again, a lot of the times, even within human history, with humans conquering humans, a lot of the time it was based within resources. Um, Again, wealth could be involved too, but um, largely it was resources, because resources ultimately lead to wealth and superiority. So that's kind of what I think this film should have gone for, instead of trying to go for this greed angle, because it really doesn't work, especially when you have such a supposedly advanced and highly technical alien race. And I think they could have had some logical explanation as to how the humans were able to rebel. Um, Within science fiction, again, speaking. I mean, I know the Independence Day one wasn't as, realistic as as to what we would do if we were in that kind of situation, but at least it made sense into the context of the movie that it was trying to set up with. But with this film, there is no logic at all being put into how ultimately the humans defeat the aliens. Because, again, you have a limited amount of people going up against a whole planet, supposedly, that they can just blow up. um, and it's just very hokey. So they needed to give some kind of you know alternate explanation as to how the humans ultimately defeat the aliens. I think, had they gone with something like a power source, or had they focused on, maybe on maybe uh taking over a certain, maybe, area where the aliens are located, and ultimately using the alien technology against the other aliens, maybe that could have worked somehow. I mean, I think that there's definitely multiple options that they could have done. But to say that just to have the humans, and again, the humans use their own technology. They don't use, in the film, they don't even use the alien technology. So yeah. And also, the aliens in the movie teach the humans how to use their technology, which is a very bad move, because that's not what smart aliens would do. And obviously, if I were in charge, I would have not had that in the movie either. So yeah, I think ultimately that could have been a good alternative to have had um, a sort of rebellion from the humans, and then it ultimately grows to the point where it becomes a threat to the aliens. So again, some kind of rebellion, and at the same time having sort of a logical explanation as to how that is carried out. So I think, though, ultimately that's really all I can say about this film and as to what I would have done had I been in the director's chair. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.